My beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes when people try to break you, when they humiliate you, when they walk away as if you don't matter, you begin to wonder if Allah has forgotten you. But tonight, this message is for the one who's been quietly crying, silently hurting, yet still holding on to Allah. This is your sign that your Rabb has already begun lifting you. And soon, the very people who tried to bring you down will witness a rise they cannot explain. When they push you down, Allah prepares a rise they can't block. My beloved brother, my dear sister, sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the ones you trusted the most. The ones you would have done anything for. The ones you always included, always thought of, always defended. And yet, they're the ones who push you down. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, silently. Sometimes they do it with words, harsh, cold, calculated. Sometimes they do it with silence, ignoring your presence as if you never mattered. Sometimes they do it with looks, as if you've become invisible overnight and you're left standing there with a heart full of questions. What did I do wrong? Why do they treat me like I'm a burden? What changed? And the shaitan uses these moments to whisper lies to you, that you're not enough, that you're not worthy, that you've fallen and you'll never rise again. But let me tell you something your soul needs to hear tonight. Just because someone pushed you down doesn't mean Allah has left you there. In fact, sometimes the push is not a punishment, it's a positioning. Yes, read that again. It's not your downfall, it's your divine placement. You see, when people remove you from their life, when they push you out of circles, groups, plans, events, it feels like rejection. But in reality, it might just be protection. Because Allah sees what you can't. He hears what they say when you're not there. He knows the energy behind the smiles and the truth behind the silence. And sometimes the people who push you down are unknowingly pushing you into the exact position Allah needs you to be in before He raises you. It's like a bow and arrow. The more you're pulled back, the further you fly forward. They think you're falling behind, but Allah is setting you up for a rise they'll never understand. And when that moment comes, when Allah lifts you in a way no one saw coming, it won't be because of who stood beside you. It won't be because of your connections or their approval. It'll be because Allah never left you. He was always there, even when no one else was. He was there when you cried on the prayer mat with no words left. He was there when your chest felt heavy, walking past people who used to care. He was there when you stayed silent through the insults, when you wanted to scream but chose sabr instead. And that silence, that patience, that heartbreak, none of it was ignored. Every tear was recorded. Every humiliation was noted. Every broken moment is now being stitched back together by the one who knows how to repair hearts better than anyone else. Because when Allah decides to lift you, He does it with such grace, such beauty, such precision, that even those who look down on you will be left in awe. They'll look at you and ask, how did he rise? How did she recover? How did they become so peaceful, so honored, so strong? And they won't know, because they didn't see the nights you cried alone. They didn't hear the du'as you whispered when you had no one else to turn to. They didn't feel the pain you carried or the weight you bore in silence. They only saw you broken, but Allah saw you patient. And that is why you will rise, not in arrogance, not in revenge, but in silent honor, in quiet strength, in a peace that can only come from knowing that Allah is enough. So if they pushed you down, say Alhamdulillah, because perhaps they were never meant to lift you. Perhaps it was never their job to understand you, because your story was always in the hands of the one who created you. And when He lifts you, no one can pull you back down. Not a soul, not a word, not a lie, nothing. So breathe deeply tonight. You're not being forgotten. You're being prepared. Not for them to clap for you, but for Allah to honor you in His way and in His time. And when that happens, you won't rise alone. You'll rise with peace. You'll rise with dignity. And you'll rise with the quiet power of someone who trusted only Allah. When you're not invited, it's because Allah reserved a higher gathering for you. You keep asking yourself, why didn't they invite me? Why was I the only one not included? And you scroll through their posts, you see the smiles, the celebrations, and your heart quietly sinks. You didn't even want much, just a little space, just a little remembrance. But your name was left out, not by accident, but on purpose. And I know it hurts, because you were always the one who remembered them. You never forgot their moments. You never failed to show up when they needed you. You always tried to make space for them in your time, in your heart, in your du'as. And now, suddenly, you feel like you've been erased, as if you were never really part of the picture to begin with. And in that moment, the shaitan begins to whisper, you're not wanted. You're not good enough. You're always the outsider. But let me stop you there, my brother, my sister. Let me remind you of something your heart may have forgotten. Sometimes being left out is Allah's greatest protection. Sometimes when you're not invited, it's because He didn't want you to sit at a table that was never clean to begin with. He didn't want your heart around hearts that speak well in public but carry poison in private. He didn't want your soul to become attached to a gathering that would one day drain you. Allah removes you not to isolate you, but to elevate you. He empties the space around you so He can refill it with something better. Don't you remember the story of Maryam alayhi salam? She was removed from her people, isolated in worship, alone in pain. But in that hidden place, she was honored in ways the world still remembers today. Sometimes Allah hides you from gatherings because the one He has written for you is greater, more sincere, more pure, more filled with barakah. Maybe you were not invited because your name is being written in gatherings of angels. Maybe you were not included because Allah included you in His mercy instead. People see crowds, but Allah sees hearts. And not every gathering full of people is blessed. And not every lonely soul is forgotten. Some of the most remembered souls in the heavens were the most left out on earth. Some of the most elevated hearts were the most excluded by people. So tonight, as you feel that emptiness in your chest, as you sit there wondering why no one thought of you, know that Allah has not stopped thinking of you for even a second. He saw the moment you checked your phone, hoping for a message that never came. He saw the way your eyes dropped when they walked past you without greeting. He saw the silent disappointment you tried to hide behind a smile. And He says in the Quran, indeed, those who believe and do good deeds, the most merciful will appoint for them love. Surah Maryam, 1996. You will be remembered by the right people. You will be honored in the right spaces. You just have to hold on a little longer. Because the gatherings of the dunya come and go. But the gatherings written by Allah last forever. So tonight, don't cry over the tables that rejected you. Don't break your heart over the events, the circles, the groups, the friends that closed their doors. Because your Lord, He's preparing a better invitation. One that doesn't require popularity. One that doesn't need a perfect photo. One that doesn't need you to shrink yourself to fit in. He's preparing a table where your presence will be wanted. Your heart will be safe. And your name will be honored. Not because of what you gave the world, but because of what you gave Him in private. That loyalty, that patience, that softness you refused to kill even when people hardened around you. That's what He's seen. And that's why when you weren't invited by them, you were being chosen by Him. And my dear, that is the highest gathering you could ever hope to belong to. They tried to bury you, but Allah was growing you in secret. You thought it was over, didn't you? When they turned their backs on you, when they shut the door and walked away like you never mattered, when they smiled while burying you under silence, gossip, rejection and blame, you thought that was the end of your story. You thought that was your fall. But my brother, my sister, it wasn't your fall. It was your planting. Yes, you were not buried to die. You were buried to grow. Because what people don't understand is that when Allah wants to elevate someone, He sometimes begins the process by hiding them, by covering them, by letting them sit in silence, in confusion, in darkness. Why? Because that's where growth happens. In the unseen, in the quiet, in the places where people forget you, but Allah never stops nurturing you. Think of a seed. Before it becomes a tree, before it blooms into something beautiful, it is buried. It is pushed into the soil, covered, crushed by dirt, surrounded by darkness. And from the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But on the inside, subhanallah, that seed is going through a transformation no one can see. It is breaking. It is softening. It is unlocking life that was hidden inside it all along. And eventually, with time, with warmth, with water, it begins to rise. And when it breaks through the surface, when it finally blooms, the same world that ignored it now looks at it in awe. That is you. What you're going through, it's not punishment. It's a divine process. They thought they erased you. But they didn't realize they were placing you exactly where Allah wanted you to begin again. They called you done. But Allah was saying, now we begin. Remember Yusuf alayhi salam? His own brothers threw him into a well. They walked away and lied about him. He was sold, used, forgotten. Years passed. People saw him as a slave, as a problem, as a name without worth. But Allah saw him as a future king, as a man of honor, as someone the entire nation would one day turn to in their time of need. And all of that began after they tried to bury him. That well, that darkness, that betrayal, it didn't stop his story. It started his story. And maybe, just maybe, the same is true for you. Maybe the ones who betrayed you actually pushed you into your purpose. Maybe that rejection was your redirection. Maybe the heartbreak was what softened your heart enough to finally hear Allah clearly. Maybe being left out was Allah clearing space around you to plant a garden within you. Because sometimes Allah hides you not to punish you, but to protect you. And sometimes Allah grows you in secret so that when the world sees you rise, they know it wasn't luck, it wasn't people, it wasn't fame, it was only Him. You see, when people are the reason you rise, they take credit. They try to control you. They try to remind you of what they did for you. But when Allah is the reason you rise, no one can claim it. No one can block it. No one can take it from you. Because He wrote your name in places their eyes could never reach. He saw you when no one else was looking. He believed in you when you didn't even believe in yourself. He whispered to your soul when the world shouted at your flaws. And now He is slowly, silently, powerfully lifting you. And soon those who buried you will look again and they will see something they don't recognize. Not because you changed to prove them wrong, but because Allah changed you to become who you were always meant to be. And here's the most beautiful part. You didn't have to force it. You didn't have to chase anyone. You didn't need revenge. All you needed was sabra and trust in the one who never wastes a single tear. So if you feel like you've been buried by life, take a deep breath, smile through your pain and say, Ya Allah, if this is planting, then I'm ready to bloom. Because what's coming is not your downfall. It's your becoming. And when you rise, you won't rise alone. You'll rise with light in your heart and the quiet victory of someone who chose faith over fear. They took everything they could, but they